What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ Buck back with you. Buck, what's going on, man?
Not too much, DJ. I'm really excited about this episode because for so long, we as evaluators, we always talk about players, and maybe we don't necessarily give the coaches their due in terms of how they can impact the squad. Well, today we're going to do that because we're going to rank the head coaches within the division, and I think we will see when we tabulate all of the findings, we probably see that coaches have a bigger influence in terms of who wins and who loses on each weekend.
Yeah, we're going to have a fun conversation with the coaches in the division, and then we are going to tabulate the results from our little project that we did, looking at skill players on offense. Then we went through defense with the 3 levels. The one thing we did that we left out, which we will get to on a episode as we get a little bit closer to the season, we're going to leave the offensive line alone as their own conversation piece.
Yeah.
So we'll have a chance to talk about that a little bit later on in the off season, but this is a fun project that we've been working on here. Buck, let's get going here. Let's start in the AFC. We'll start in the AFC East. Let's get to the head coaches in this division, 1 through 4. We'll knock those out.
When I think about the AFC East and ranking the coaches, look, I'm gonna start with Sean McDermott, Mike McDaniel. So let's go Buffalo, Miami. Then you have kind of the unknown in Jeremiah. Then I'm going to go Saleh and then Jeremiah just because I don't have enough. And so it's a situation where Sean McDermott, to me, is experienced. They've dominated the division. He's a really, really good coach in terms of putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And even though he has moved around when it comes to the coordinators, the Buffalo Bills continue and consistently are a team that is always there at the end. So to me, give me the former wrestler, Sean McDermott.
All right, Buck, I'm with you. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know how you would go any other way. I think we might see this as we go through this exercise on the coaches. It feels like it's a little more direct and distinct. But you got to go Sean McDermott for all that he's accomplished, all the division titles he's racked up there in Buffalo. He's always going to have a tough, disciplined team. He's won. Mike McDaniel, who is proven, obviously, to be one of the most dynamic offensive minds in football for quite some time, and that's manifested itself in what we've seen from this Dolphins team at 2. Mayo and Saleh, again, look, Saleh, the wins have not been there, but I do think he has control of the locker room. I do think he's well respected there. I have him at 3, and Mayo is TBD. We don't know yet. I'm excited about him. I know he's somebody that's really bright and it's really tough and that has earned a reputation inside that building, which I think will make the transition easy for him. But he comes in at number 4.
Yeah, look, it's tough, but DJ, this division that's coming up next, the AFC North.
How fun with this one at the top.
This was probably the hardest one to evaluate when it came to the coaches. And so, I put Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cleveland, and Cincinnati. And look, I feel horrible about this because I'm sitting here like, how can I put Zach Taylor at the bottom of the list when Zach Taylor's been to a Super Bowl? How can I put Kevin Stefanski kind of at the bottom when he's won Coach of the Year twice, and he's done it like against improbable odds in multiple situations when he loses all of his quarterbacks, but still finds a way to get the team to the winner's circle. And Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh, you have 2 Super Bowl coaches, 2 coaches who have really been able to kind of make the most of the least and win. This is just a division where, I mean, you just talk about like the X's and O's and the motivational part of it and the culture building. These guys hit it. They understand their team. They understand how to get their team going, and they don't make excuses when their team is short or has a deficiency. To me, those are the qualities and traits that you look for in a head coach. And look, the AFC North has 4 terrific coaches.
Sometimes you pick up a little bag of apples at the grocery store, Buck, and you're trying to see if there's a bad one in there, right? You're going through and like, this one's a little squishy. There's no bad coach in this division. I mean, this is an excellent division of coaches. I ended up with Harbaugh 1, Tomlin 2, Stefanski 3, Zach Taylor 4. And again, Zach Taylor's a really good coach who's taken a team to a Super Bowl. So I don't think there's a bad one in the bunch. I ended up going Harbaugh over Tomlin. It's obviously very close. Both guys with long track records. I think they might be the 2 longest tenured coaches in the NFL, with Andy Reid with the Chiefs, maybe 3rd in that mix. But those are long-term guys. I think Harbaugh, I give him the edge there just because I think that he's morphed and maybe been a little quicker to adjust and adapt and morph. I think obviously being way ahead of the curve with what they did with Lamar Jackson. I'm going to go with Harbaugh 1, but man, there's no bad options there in the AFC North. How about the AFC South?
AFC South is interesting. So I'm going to go with Houston, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, and Tennessee. Houston, just because of a remarkable job that DeMeco Ryans did in his first year, won the division when no one thought this team was going to be remotely competitive. I just think he has some of the secret sauce that you look for in the coach. The real conversation, the tough conversation for me was Jacksonville versus Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about Doug Peterson versus Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen did a terrific job, right? He loses his quarterback, finds a way to win with Gardner Minshew. But the deciding factor was me is just the fact that Doug Peterson has the Super Bowl ring on the resume. So that tipped it in his favor. But that conversation between 2 and 3 is tough. And then Brian Callahan, we just don't have enough. We haven't seen him. I know this. I know having his dad on staff, arguably the best offensive line coach in football, is going to help him close the gap on the competitors, and maybe one of the reasons why the Tennessee Titans win more games than many envisioned heading into this season.
Well, this is one. I think I had the exact same order, right? I had DeMeco Ryans 1, Doug Peterson 2, Shane Steichen 3, Callahan 4. But I'll be honest. I mean, are we crazy for having DeMeco over Doug when Doug's got a Super Bowl to his name and a longer track record there? But what DeMeco did year one was so darn impressive, man. Maybe it's recency bias. Obviously, there's not a lot to go off of there. But I look at his track record as a coordinator. First of all, you look at his track record as a player, then as a coordinator, and then to do what he did in year one. I'm with you. I thought maybe I'd be alone on that one, having him 1, Buck, but that was impressive what he did last year.
Look, it was super impressive, the fact that he was able to kind of get them going. And I think we have to have a little recency bias. I mean, this team is loaded. This team is a division winner. This team won a playoff game. And this team has a better roster coming into the year, which makes you think that they would do more things. Doug Peterson is a great coach in his own right, but man, I just don't know how you can deny what DeMeco Ryans did in his first year, right? I mean, from playing to being a coordinator to then taking over a team that, man, a franchise that was downtrodden, and get them up and going speaks volumes about his acumen.
All right, this might be surprising here. I'm curious to see where you are in the AFC West. What do you got?
Okay, so let's go Kansas City, Chargers, Denver, then the Las Vegas Raiders. And Kansas City, I think, is easy. Andy Reid, look, man, he's an all-timer.
Yep.
The Chargers, look, man,
I was getting to that 2 and 3. I have the same 2 and 3. I thought I was going to be on an island.
Man, I'm drinking all the Jim Harbaugh Kool-Aid, but I think why wouldn't you? Like DJ, just being on the West Coast when I was area scout, just watching what he did at USD, University of San Diego, then going to Stanford, then doing it with the Niners, then going to Michigan and doing it. The dude wins everywhere, and he's done it with a variety of different personnel that he's been given. He has not always had the best players, but he's found a way to build the best teams. And look, man, I find myself clicking over to charges.com and looking at the videos and hearing the players and what they're talking about and how they're getting after it. DJ, to me, it just seems like a recipe that the Chargers are going to win because this is what Jim Harbaugh does.
So let me give you a question and see how you answer this. And maybe, because I know people are going to be going, you guys are crazy. Sean Payton has been to the playoffs a million times. Sean Payton's won a Super Bowl. But let me ask you, what's the greater accomplishment? To win 1 Super Bowl with Drew Brees over all those years, or to go to a Super Bowl with Colin Kaepernick? What was the more impressive feat?
Well, look, I think it's the more impressive feat because before you even get to Colin Kaepernick, does anyone remember the conversation about Alex Smith prior to Jim Harbaugh getting there?
Yeah,
Jim
he was close.
Jim Harbaugh completely turned around Alex Smith. Had Alex Smith playing at a Pro Bowl level, makes a bold move when Alex Smith gets hurt, puts Colin Kaepernick in and says, you know what? We're going to ride the young fella the rest of the way. They go to, I mean, DJ, it's
this close to winning a Super Bowl.
Right.
This close.
And so to me, it's the adaptability that he's displayed. And when I talk about being able to do it with a bunch of different types, because remember, he won with Andrew Luck at Stanford, who is as classic as they come, to then deal with Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick and to find a way to continue to win the way that he won at Michigan or whatever. To me, he just understands I can be whatever I need to be to get my team to win with what I have. To me, that's just a sign of superior coaching.
Yep. And look, again, what he did at Michigan is no joke either. Everywhere he's gone, it's been stacked against him. If you look at it, you go to Stanford when SC is rolling, Oregon is rolling, and he he blows right through the conference. He goes, and now it took him a while. It took him a while there at Michigan, but when he went there, Ohio State's on top of the mountain, and everybody thought he'll never be able to climb that hurdle. I mean, they had been manhandled by them, and it took a little bit, but now that has been a lopsided rivalry in Michigan's favor. He went to the Niners when the Niners were down. He's done this everywhere he's ever gone. So I even look at this and go, like, Andy Reid might be on the Mount Rushmore of NFL coaches. Like, he is, if not, he is headed there. Yeah. He's in the conversation all time. So it looks insurmountable when you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid there. That looks like this. It's been a run there. They have dominated this division. I'm not putting it past Jim Harbaugh. He's done it everywhere he's ever been.
Man, I just think the response from the players tells you everything. Like, I saw Easton Stick talk about just the little things in terms of like how he coaches the backup quarterbacks and how he has Easton Stick in different periods. Like, hey, I want you to go aggressively and go for it. I want you to try and fit these tight window throws. And then he'll go to another period and say, no, we're going to dial it back. We can play a little more conservative. We need to make sure that we are stacking completions and playing. And DJ, like, when I hear that without even knowing, I'm like, he is teaching him how to play situational football based on what we are. And so much of being a great coach is in your ability to really get people to pay attention to the details. To me, that's what Jim Harbaugh does. And he may be quirky and all that. I just know I've seen the product too many times to bet against him.
Yeah. And going back to, the comparison of Drew Brees and Colin Kaepernick, I'm not taking a shot at Colin Kaepernick. I'm just saying Drew Brees was viewed as a top 3 quarterback for over a decade. Literally one of the 3 best quarterbacks. Colin Kaepernick during his run was never considered one of the top, 3, 5, 7 quarterbacks in the NFL. And what I'm getting is he got the best out of everybody that he had. And he's done that everywhere he's been. And that's not a shot on Sean Payton. They had a lot of success there, and they got hosed in the playoffs against the Rams. Everybody knows, the story there as well. But I think that's it's a good conversation. It's a good debate to have between Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh. It's a fun one. All right, let's take a break. Let's come back and we'll knock out the NFC. All right, Buck, NFC East, 1, 2, 3, 4. How you want to roll?
This is going to shock people, but I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Washington Commanders, and then the New York Giants. And to me, it's Mike McCarthy. And I know people love to talk about the Dallas Cowboys' shortcomings. They haven't been able to go to a Super Bowl. They haven't done this and that. But I know he's put up 3 straight seasons where they've had 12 wins. He has a Super Bowl on his resume. Did a lot of great things in Green Bay. And whether you want to credit Aaron Rodgers or whatever, he deserves credit for getting that team to play up to a championship level under his watch. Mike McCarthy, to me, is underrated. And even though it's going to be chaotic this year and people are going to take him and Dak Prescott to task, I just think they find a way to win because he is really good at what he does. And even though they haven't had the big success that Cowboys fans want, I think it's hard to dispute 36 plus wins in 3 years since he's been at the top.
12 a year, man. 12 a year. And you go back to a nice long run that he had in Green Bay. He's got a Super Bowl. So I've got McCarthy, Sirianni, Dan Quinn, Brian Daboll. And Daboll, if you would have had this conversation the year before, what he got out of the Giants that year with the healthy Daniel Jones, we're talking about them a little differently. So we'll see what they look like. It is a make or break year for him and the Giants this year. Dan Quinn, look, he's another one who's, he's been to a Super Bowl. He's been on the defensive side of the ball and been around defenses that have been really, really good. Good football coach. So I have that 1, 2, 3, 4 as well. NFC North.
Tough, man. And some of this is going to be recency bias, but I'm going to give the order. Detroit, Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago. And the job that Dan Campbell has done, no matter how unorthodox his coaching tactics may appear, he's very raw in terms of what he says, but you can't knock the results. It's a much tougher team. It's a far more physical team than we ever expected the Detroit Lions to be. And having been on the sideline for a Detroit Lions game when I was with the Jacksonville Jaguars and watching them absolutely beat the Jaguars to sleep, to me, he has a way of connecting with his team and players to embody what he said this team is going to be. They talked about grit and toughness and that introductory press conference. He's talking about biting kneecaps and ankles and all that other stuff. DJ, they're a scrappy squad. But more importantly, you did go beyond that, like the toughness. X and O's wise on offense, man, they get after you. They have a bunch of different ways where they put you in a bind and a blender. Ben Johnson is terrific. Defensively, the way they've been able to mask some of their deficiencies through tactics, not talent, good coach, man. He's just a good coach. He finds a way to get it done. So I'm gonna give him his flowers.
All right, this is a weird way of saying this. I have Dan Campbell, LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell, Matt Eberflus. So Campbell 1, LaFleur 2, Kevin O'Connell 3, and Eberflus 4, which I think is the same order you just did.
Same order.
But if this sounds a weird way to do it, but if you took their resumes, right, and we put their resumes to the side, and I told you talent is equal, we have the exact same collection of players.
That's a different conversation, kind of.
I think I would take KOC. Like if you told me I got to go win a game, everything else is equal. I just love what Kevin does offensively. I love the demeanor. I love there's a confidence there that doesn't cross the line. But I'm just saying it's a different way of looking at it, right? Because each of these coaches have different players. Each of them have a different history based off the players they've had. I'm saying that you level the playing field and you can pick one of these coaches. I might take Kevin.
Come on, man. And look, KOC, someone I go back to, we were doing Nike camps back in 2011, 2012. So to watch him go from doing stuff where he's on the side working with quarterbacks, man, I think he was working with Ricky Town, the great Ricky Town, who was a big time prominent. Like working from Ricky Town to now he is like finding a way to make it happen in Minnesota. And I will say this, DJ, having been up to Minneapolis, having watched them in training camp, having watched him work, they operate at what I call a high IQ rate when it comes to their practice planning and the way they get it done. And so you may be right. And maybe that is the exercise when we're ranking quarterbacks. When we're ranking head coaches in terms of who can do the most with the least. I certainly believe he has a way of kind of squeezing out every drop. I couldn't put him up there because Dan Campbell has taken a team that, look, they were in the cellar dwelling. He kind of built them up to be a title contender. But KOC deserves props for what he's been able to do for the Minnesota Vikings, because this is a smart team, a well-run, a very efficient team. Look, it's a testament to what he does in terms of as a coach.
NFC South, Buck.
NFC South. Man, it's funny because there's been so much turnover, but I got Tampa Bay, then I have Atlanta, New Orleans, and Carolina. Ty Bowles last year. Man, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I didn't know if he was going to be able to get out of it because I worried about it. They take Baker Mayfield. They get Baker Mayfield to play at a good level. He always has the defense humming. He will blitz his way out of jams, and they've been able to do that. So I'm going to give him props for being the best in the division. And then the surprise is probably Raheem Morris over Dennis Allen. Raheem hasn't been a head coach since his time at Tampa, but there's just my sense, there's a belief that his ability to answer problems when he was with the LA Rams and before that when he was in the Atlanta Falcons, first as a defensive coach, then an offensive coach, then back to a defensive coach. I just think that well-rounded background is going to make him a much better coach the second time around.
I just flipped 2 and 3. So I had Bowles 1, Canales 4, and I think I'm excited about Canales, how he does there. I like what I've heard, but we just haven't seen it yet as a head coach. But I went Dennis Allen, just maybe more resume based over Raheem there at 2 and 3. But yeah, it's just funny when you look at some of these divisions and you look at some of them who, like you look at the AFC North who we were talking about earlier, and you just look at the resumes and the track records and the accomplishments of all those coaches. And you look at this one, you're like, man, you could shake this one up and we'll see how it all turns out here with these guys. It's all a lot of unproven there in that division. Last one, NFC West.
DJ, I would say
I can't wait to see 1 and 2 here. I'm looking forward to this.
I would say this conversation was as difficult as the AFC North, but I'm gonna go Rams, Niners, Seahawks, and then Arizona Cardinals. And the conversation is Sean McVay versus Kyle Shanahan.
That's
which one? Like which one? But I give the nod to Sean McVay because I feel like Sean McVay has been able to rework and rebuild the organization on the fly. The job that he did last year with the Rams is really amazing. It was amazing because we talked about this team being in a rebuild, and they found a way to win in a rebuild. Yes, you had Matthew Stafford. You had a franchise quarterback, a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but you had a bunch of youngsters around the quarterback. And being able to do it, I think he has a very clear sense of what he wants in a player and what they want to be as a team. And I'll say this, to be able to shift gears offensively, because this is not the offense that he ran a few years ago when he was running wide zone and they were doing all the complements from condensed formations. They've morphed into being a gap team, a more physical team, and he's done it different. to me, good coaches find a way to adapt and adjust and kind of build around the personnel that they have, or they build a team to meet the needs of the trends in the league. Sean McVay's done that. And that's me saying I love what Kyle Shanahan has done. We talked about the system, but to me, Sean McVay is just a notch ahead of Kyle Shanahan as a head coach.
So I think this is look, you can just point to it and say, oh, McVay's got the Super Bowl, so that that seals the deal. I ended up with McVay 1, Shanahan 2. I had Gannon 3 and McDonald 4, so we just switched 3 and 4. But to me, really, that came down to style, preference, personality, more so than any X's and O's, accomplishment, managing a game, things like that. I think Kyle Shanahan is incredibly smart, and I think his teams have an edge to him, which I love, and that's why he's one of the 5 best coaches in the NFL. I think McVay does things super smart, but with just a different energy. I'm buying in more on the energy, the positivity, all those things. I think that's conducive to all different types of teams, whether you got a young team, you got a veteran team, you go through hard times if you have to. I think he's somebody who can pull you out of that. So to me, more personality driven, more so than anything else. But I mean, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. They're both fantastic coaches.
Look, they're great coaches, and they're able to do it within their own style. And I credit McVay and some of the others from being able to take things from Kyle Shanahan, but then add to it. They do it. They're not clones of like their mentor, but they found a way to do it. And Shanahan, the things that DJ you mentioned in terms of building a team that is edgy, I think you need to have an opportunity to watch them practice to really understand how this team is a little different than other teams. I mean, they physically beat up opponents. And when you watch them in practice, I mean, look, without getting them in trouble saying it's a violation, I don't know if I've seen a more physical team when it comes to practicing without pads. They just operate at a different level. And I think what's telling is I went to Minnesota, and in training camp in Minnesota, they were still talking about their joint practices with the San Francisco 49ers and how it was eye-opening in terms of the level that they needed to get to be the team that they want to be.
Yep, no doubt. It's again, there's no wrong answer between those two. All right, we have the tabulations. We're going to go through them here by division. We'll start here at the AFC, and we'll start in the AFC East. Again, this is combining offense, defense, head coaches. So again, offensive line will be its own thing. So keep that in mind as we go through these. But I'm going to give you the AFC winners here, Buck. And then maybe give me one division out of the AFC that maybe surprised you based off this exercise. So AFC East, and we have it based off the way we see it. Dolphins, Jets, Bills, Patriots. Interesting with the Bills having dominated this division. The AFC North, it's a tie with the Ravens and the Steelers, followed by the Browns and then the Bengals. AFC South, Texans, Jags, Colts, Titans. And then AFC West, Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, Broncos. What surprised you the most when you look at that tally?
I would say that the AFC East is the most surprising because you talk about the Buffalo Bills, the Bills being at the top, the Bills consistently squishing the fish, as they used to say when I was up there. They've done it, but yet, and still, the way that we view the Miami Dolphins from a coaching standpoint, from the explosiveness that they have on offense with the skill players and all of that. Look, it's a team that has the talent to be mentioned with those contenders, but there's something that is lacking because they haven't been able to get it done when they needed to. But talent-wise, I think all of the hype around them being a title contender is warranted.
That's a big one. I would say the next one, and I can see the point totals here, the biggest gap between 1 and 2 shouldn't be a surprise is the AFC West with the Chiefs over the Chargers there from 15 points to 32 points. So that's a pretty sizable gap. The second biggest gap when we look at these, now keep in mind, we had the Ravens and the Steelers tied. We had the Dolphins and the Jets within 1 point of each other. The second biggest spread from 1 to 2 was the Texans 15 and the Jags 29. So obviously low point wins here when you're tabulating here. But interesting to see that, just based off of talent, it looks like the Texans have a pretty sizable advantage.
Well, they've upgraded their team, DJ. They won with the team that was not expected to win, and then they've been able to build upon that. Nick Casario and D'Amico Ryans have teamed up and made sure that the talent matches the vision. They should have, they have better personnel. That said, it's going to be tougher for them because they won't sneak up on anybody. But that is a very sizable gap in terms of the perception of the Texans versus the Jaguars. It's very positive and trending in the Texans' favor.
Let's get to the NFC. NFC East, we have it Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders, Giants. The North, we have the Lions, the Packers, the Bears, the Vikings. The South, we have the Bucks, the Falcons, the Saints, the Panthers. And then in the West, we have the Niners, followed by the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Cardinals. What surprises you?
You know what, DJ? There weren't many surprises. I would say the NFC East continues to be a little bit of a surprise, when it comes to how you rank and shake those teams out. But not really surprised. I think a lot of it is kind of standard chalk in terms of just like the general conversation that you would have. I don't think there are any surprises really in the NFC.
How about the fact of the closeness in the division? So we had the Eagles were 5 points ahead of the Cowboys. The one that's the closest, the Lions and the Packers, within 2 points of each other in the NFC North. So those roster-wise, very similar. With the Bears, they are 10 points behind the Lions. They're at the top, not that far off. So that one is very close. And then if you're looking for the gaps, the spread, the biggest spread would be it is the Niners over the Rams. So that is the one that we feel like the Niners have the clear talent advantage in their division over any other team in their division in the NFC.
Yeah, clear talent division. And then it goes back to maybe what we talked about. We pointed out Sean McVay and coaching. Coaching has allowed them to close the gaps where their talent was insufficient. But over time, what normally happens in this league, the more talented team wins.
Yep.
So the teams that have the most talented teams that are kind of the division winners based on our study, probably be the teams that we talk about when it comes down to the tournament at the end of the year.
No doubt. All right. I'm going to be out next week, Buck, do a little family trip, but I know you've got a little something coming everybody's way, and then we will reunite here shortly as we get towards the season. I think our buddy Marcus Grant's going to fill in for me here. So looking forward to listening to those episodes while I'm on a little family trip, and hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend as we march towards July 4th. We'll see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.